Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, we got to talk about that headline because people have been sending it to me. And then I had a journalist friend ask me to debunk it. And, okay, so here we go. A third of migrants lied about their familiar status with their children. Wow, a third. That's really high. That needs an investigation. We need to take a look at that. So, I mean, it's one of those headlines that's just grabbing people, and they're sharing it like crazy without actually looking into it at all. One of them from the Daily Mail, carrying this idea, has 145,000 shares. 145,000 people bought into this stupidity enough to share it and co-sign on it. Look at what's happening. Okay. So let's talk about the realities of this. Was it a third? No, it was 30%. I'll give that one to them. They rounded it up. Cool, that's fine. No big deal. No harm, no foul there, really. Was it of all migrants? No, not all migrants come with kids. So no, it's not. Was it of all migrants with kids? No, no, of course not. They didn't test everybody. Was it a scientific sample from different locations? No, no. Was it even just a random sample of people going through a specific location to be processed? No, no, it wasn't. It was of those that ICE believed were lying. So if ICE believed you were lying, and they suspected that enough, they put you in this thing and they tested your DNA, and 30% of those were. Kind of, but even that's not true. We'll get to that. So even at this point, the real headline is, out of those people suspected of bringing a child that wasn't there, ICE was wrong 70% of the time. But it's really more than that, because the DNA test does not account for step-parents. And when asked about this, I said, well, we would look for documents. We would look for documents, but those numbers are already in the total. Doesn't account for those who have legal guardianship. Doesn't account for those who were asked by a parent to bring their child here. Doesn't account for those who were just walking along and saw a 15 or 16-year-old kid who happens, you know, down there at 15, 16 years old in some of these countries, it's so rough that that's pretty much an adult. And this child may have decided to make that trip on their own. And then they get here, and maybe the adult actually knows what's happening in the U.S., and when they see this kid about to be taken into custody, they're like, no, 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 that's my kid. Because these unaccompanied minors, and where they end up. They end up in the custody of Health and Human Services, where there are thousands of reports of sexual abuse. If you wouldn't lie to stop a kid from getting raped, you're a pretty horrible person. So no, not a third of migrants fake their kids. Not a third of those with kids lied about it. It's an entirely manufactured story. The reality is, out of those that ICE believed were lying, they were wrong. The overwhelming majority of the time. A ridiculously high percentage. By their own flawed study. If you take it in account for the things that they didn't account for, they're almost always wrong. This is made up. And 145,000 people shared one version of this stupid story. This is why we can't have nice things. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.